From ridiculed for wearing leather boots to being in a championship-winning car his entire career, Lewis Hamilton has seen the worst side of Formula One. But what makes him the most hated driver in history? Well, let's take a look. And it all starts with how lucky Hamilton has been with the cars he's gotten in Formula One. He started off with one of the best teams on the grid, McLaren, and has been a driver for champions like Mercedes for a good 10 years. So with great cars comes great responsibilities, and Hamilton took the responsibility and has achieved so much more than expected. Like, he's achieved everything the sport has to offer and more. Most points, most poles, most wins, literally everything in the sport, but you don't reach the apex of motorsport without making some enemies, right? After all, those enemies are literally F1 fans that hate Hamilton altogether. Why? Well, it's because he was never properly challenged in Formula One. In fact, he's never had the chance to race in a Williams-esque car.
He came to open the factory up, and so I was sitting in my go-kart in the where they have all the cars, and I sat there, and he came and he knelt down and asked me what I wanted to do, what my dreams were, and told him one day I wanted to be Formula 1 world champion.
And many people suggest that he only knows how to win a race if he's on pole position. That means he's got no cars in front of him, no one to overtake. Then he can just let his car do the magic. Just drive to survive, you know? But for Hamilton, it's mostly drive and win, since he never really witnessed what actual survival is, alright? And when he's always on the front side of the grid, he's obviously going to beat everyone behind him, right? And that contributes to why people hate him. Like, he's literally beaten all-time fan favorite drivers. And oh boy, these fans have sworn their heart and soul to these drivers.
Head of stewarding as well, you know, different philosophy from, you know, we had Charlie for so long, who was really at the pinnacle of that, and now it's shifted. And so it'll just be interesting to see what the trend is moving forwards.
So when Hamilton beats them, it makes fans angry. I mean, for your favorites to lose to a guy who's always winning, it's gotta sting. It's also why ever since Hamilton's been a part of the circuit, fans of F1 have disliked him for being different from most F1 racers. I mean, he's beaten guys like Felipe Massa and Sebastian Vettel. And not just that, when a driver keeps on winning, race after race, most viewers are gonna support the underdog more. And Hamilton is the one dominating, so it makes sense that he's gained himself a couple of haters over the years. Plus, his frequent clashes with other drivers and teams are a whole other story. As far as old rivalries are concerned, Max Verstappen and Lewis just reignited theirs. And boy, was there some drama. At the Brazilian Grand Prix, all was well until the pair ended up clashing just before restarting lap 6. Apparently, Max didn't take it well, and he ended up blaming Hamilton for leaving him with no space. Of course, the 7-time champion's not one to hold back either. He told his race engineer that it was no racing incident, and lucky for him, the race chiefs agreed, giving Max a 5-second penalty. Although this didn't stop the verbal back and forth between either of them. The damage had been done, and their fierce rivalry was once again the talk of the town. However, it's kind of surprising that he held his tongue, seeing how most people think he's got a bit of an attitude problem. Sure, Hamilton's a pretty outspoken driver, and he often uses his platform to highlight issues within society, but most people think it's all pretend. I mean, the guy's out there rallying for LGBTQ rights, and even once said that he'd sacrifice his sponsorship deals to prove his resolve. But that doesn't matter to his critics. You see, for some reason, drivers need prior permission from the FIA to take a stand from this year onwards. But Lewis doesn't believe in any of that, according to him.
Costs 0.3 of a second every circuit per lap. So if I'm a kilo overweight, I can lose up to 2 seconds in the race distance. So my weight is very important. And also during the weight, I lose up to 4 kilos in the race in an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. He doesn't really care about risking it all. And he's certainly not worried if partners drop him for being associated with a certain narrative. So as far as he's concerned, being outspoken is something he's gotta be. Because if he's not the one taking any chances, then no one's going to do it. Although sometimes, taking chances did get him into some major trouble. Like the time he threw Mercedes under the bus. It's no secret that Lewis has been pretty upfront about the team's 2023 Formula One Challenger. He's blatantly said that the Mercedes car just isn't it. It's not working properly for him. So he feels that the guys in the garage are in charge of that. And despite his constant complaints as to how bad the car concept is, he calls out his own team publicly for ignoring him. Like, it just doesn't make sense, you know? Considering how George Russell won a race in the same car that Hamilton has, so why wouldn't it work out for him only? But disregarding that, Hamilton really thinks the team team should own up to its mistake and take accountability. So this harsh attitude towards his team just makes him even more unlikable than ever. And that's pretty ironic, considering how he gives motivational comments after each race on the radio. But he has the audacity to say stuff that bashes his own team in interviews. Although honestly, this may not be the only musty backstabbing behavior he's done. In fact, there's nothing more ironic than him being a vegan and still owning dozens of leather boots. Jeez, man, at least keep that shoe collection private if you don't want to be called out. Like, your environmental activism may just be fake because, really, who does that? Now get this, Hamilton says killing animals is bad. Go vegan, all that jazz.
When I was young, I wanted to be a racing driver. When I watched Ayrton, I didn't even think of the people that were watching him. Hadn't even considered that I was not just the only one. There was obviously so many people, but the importance of having fans at the track.
Then I wear designer leather boots. Like, come on. Not just that, but he's such a big promoter of environmental activism. But he's majorly sponsored by Monster Energy, and they're like one of the largest polluters on Earth, which is crazy. Like, dude, you get backlash, and then you ask why people dislike you. Like, this is dirt to the name of actual activists who mold their lifestyles to make this world a better place. So it just seems like Hamilton is trying to look woke and up to date with new issues. But he's not showing it through his own actions, which is not surprising at all, considering all the other things he's been a hypocrite on. Like, it's okay if he dominates, but it's not okay if some other team does. So get this, for the years when Sebastian Vettel dominated his prime in Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton just couldn't handle the losses at all. He wanted Red Bull's dominance to end, and for the sport to be more competitive. And when he got all of that, he was probably the only one at an advantage, because the end of Vettel's dominance in Red Bull led to a start in Hamilton's leading era in Mercedes. And when year after year, he kept winning the championship, he didn't mind his own dominance. Like, hello, what happened to a competitive environment here? What happened to everyone having a fair shot? Like, that just makes you one of the most hypocritical people out there.
I like being in this room because I'm not the oldest.
34?
You know, but I'm 34, yeah, I need
34.
Okay, the day we get beat by somebody who's born 2000 and upwards.
I know, freaking heck.
It's time.
Yeah, I'm not that young.
So as much as Hamilton as a driver is adored and idolized, his character is where he falls short. People dislike him, and they've got a lot of reasons why it's justified, but it's highly likely that fans will stick to this sentiment for a few years down the lane. Like, look at Sebastian Vettel. He had a lot of people criticizing his every move during his Red Bull years, and now he's probably one of the most loved drivers in Formula One. So now that Hamilton's dominance is being erased, maybe fans would feel pity for him, and maybe fans might even start liking him even more rather than judging every single thing he does. But for now, that's all for why Lewis Hamilton is the most hated F1 driver in history.